What is going on, Jet fans? Matt O'Leary back with another video. Today could be a very big day for the New York Jets, as all reports are indicating that if things go well today, Aaron Glenn might just get hired as the next head coach of the New York Jets. All the insiders are saying it. Ian Rappaport is reporting that the New York Jets may try to hire Aaron Glenn today. If all goes well, Glenn is scheduled to interview with the New Orleans Saints tomorrow. Glenn has spoken and told people that the New York Jets are his number one choice. I think there's a reason why he picked to visit the New York Jets first rather than the New Orleans Saints. And if things go well and the Jets could come to an agreement with Aaron Glenn today, I think there's a very strong chance that Glenn gets hired and never makes it to New Orleans tomorrow. It's interesting that Lance Newmark is the name to interview for the second time as the GM. These are the only two guys. I think the Jets are confident that they're going to get that duo, Lance Newmark and Aaron Glenn. He will also be in the building today, so watch for that announcement. But obviously, Glenn's the one that's getting the most hype. And we also found out, too, according to NFL insiders, that Glenn was communicating with assistant or potential assistant coaches that he wanted to join him, and they think they're going to Florham Park and the New York Jets. Some names to watch for a coaching staff. I really like this tweet from Will Parkinson, and he's very plugged in on this stuff, so I wanted to share. Hank Fraley, who is the current offensive line coach for the Detroit Lions, as a potential OC and O-line coach. I don't know how I feel about him calling plays, but clearly would be a massive, and I mean massive, upgrade to the offensive line coach and what they are currently trotting out there in Keith Carter. JT Barrett's the assistant quarterback coach in Detroit. That could be someone that comes along. Mark Brunell, who is the current quarterback coach with the Detroit Lions, might be someone that comes along. And Calvin Shepard, who is the linebackers coach in Detroit this past year, may also be someone who comes along. I'm interested in seeing if Aaron Glenn would build his staff similarly to how they did it in Detroit. In Detroit, Dan Campbell, former coach, former coach, idiot, former player in the NFL. And there are a lot of former players in the NFL on that staff. Mark Brunell, Antoine Randall, Aaron Glenn. You go right down the line, and there's a bunch of people who've played in the league. So a part of me is curious if the same approach happens with Aaron Glenn here, assuming he gets the job. It feels like he's the front runner. I guess there's a chance that it doesn't work out, but right now, again, the feeling is that today might very well be the day. I get it. There's a lot of fans who wanted someone with experience. That was my preference as well, an experienced head coach. I put Vrabel and Flores above Aaron Glenn for that reason. I still think Aaron Glenn is a good candidate for the head coaching job. And I know that people are looking at, it's another defensive coordinator, another defensive guy. Here we go again. My hope with Glenn is that he's different from the last few defensive coaches that the Jets hired. Robert Saleh, much more buddy-buddy with his guys, and it was, I'm not going to yell at you, you guys are grown men, you know what you did wrong kind of a thing. Todd Bowles didn't really have much of a personality. I'm not saying that he couldn't coach up a defense. I think clearly Todd Bowles can coach defense and has made the playoffs a couple times in his second stint. Or actually 3 years in a row, in his second stint with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers as a head coach. But Aaron Glenn is a former player. He's much more, I would say, intense than both of those guys. He's spoken about wanting to be a CEO style of head coach. And actually, he was talking about on one of the podcast appearances, the Pivot Pod, that a lot of people have been clipping up. I really like this answer from Aaron Glenn on his approach of getting back into the NFL.
You know, and I'm doing something that I liked, but I didn't love. Right. And I want to make sure if I do something, man, my heart got to be in it. Mm-hmm. And once she told me that, I jumped right in it, man. And at that point, and this is a saying I always say, I didn't stick my toe in the water to see if it was cold. I jumped right on in there. Right. And I scouted, in-house scout with the Jets a couple of years. Then I went on the road. I was driving for hours, right, college scouting. Then I went right to being an assistant DB coach. I did my QC thing because I want to make sure I didn't miss one step. I want to start from the bottom. I told everybody I was there, don't treat me any different than anybody else. right? Because I want to understand everything there is about the scouting process. I want to know everything about being a QC. I want to know everything about being an assistant coach, all right, to a lead DB coach, to a defense coordinator I am right now, right? And I'm hoping to be a head coach at some point. So I didn't want to miss one step, so you can't tell me that I haven't seen it, just like with a player.
He's seen it from a lot of different angles. He's been a scout. He's seen it from that side. He's been an assistant positional coach. He's been a positional coach, defensive backs with the Saints, and then a defensive coordinator. And he wants to be a head coach. And in order to be a successful head coach, it doesn't necessarily matter what side of the ball you come from, because we've seen guys who are great defensive coordinators that can't make it as a head coach. Robert Saleh, probably a very good example of that, at least for now, even though he may get the Jacksonville job. We've seen offensive coordinators come in and not be able to be good head coaches, but solid offensive coordinators. The difference is, especially for him, who's someone who's a defensive coach, he has to spend equal time with both the offense and the defense. He can't put too much of a focus on the defense. He needs to be a CEO style of head coach, right, where you kind of oversee everything, and you need to hire a good offensive staff. That's going to determine the success of Aaron Glenn. Unfortunately, with the most recent example, Robert Saleh did not hire a good offensive staff, and that was a big reason for the Jets' downfall. Aaron Glenn has to make sure that he knocks this out of the park in order to give him the most likely, or the best likelihood, I guess, to succeed at the position. It's no guarantee that he's going to be a good head coach. You could say that with every single person on this list. There's no guarantee that Ben Johnson, even, who's the darling of this cycle, is going to be a good head coach in Chicago. There is inherent risk with every single candidate on the list. Yes, there are ones who've done it before, and I think that maybe would comfort some Jet fans, but a good example, the Buffalo Bills, they had Rex Ryan, a defensive-minded coach. They hired Sean McDermott after that, a first-time head coach from the defensive side of the football, and things finally began to work out there. You look at what DeMeco Ryans been able to do in Houston, a former player for Houston, defensive-minded coach, finds a rookie quarterback, has success. Dan Quinn in his second stint gets a good offensive staff in here, finds a rookie quarterback who's unbelievably successful, gets into the playoffs. There's a path to success. The Jets and more specifically Aaron Glenn, assuming he gets the job, has to go out there and hire a good offensive staff. It's going to be a busy day today, guys. I'm going to have my eyeballs all over Twitter looking for the updates. I'll keep you updated here on the channel, but just wanted to do a video first thing this morning, giving you the latest on the Aaron Glenn news. I'm Matt O'Leary. Subscribe if you're new, and I'll catch you next time.